think she's just so brave. You hope that if you were put in the same position that you would do what Lena does in the film, but you don't know really. I mean, it's such an extraordinary act of courage. So I found that really compelling. Yeah.
Do you speak to any survivors of Colonia? I think there are like 5 survivors or something ridiculous, or perhaps any of the victims' families.
No, I actually flew out to Chile and I did meet and speak with members. I think there's more than 5 people alive who experienced it actually. That's what's so crazy, is that it's actually not that long ago, and I feel like so little is known about it, which is extraordinary.
And obviously the cult is just the definition of creepy. Yeah. So did you do much research on cults, or perhaps?
Not cults in general. I think I was really trying to learn as much as I could specifically about Colonia. But yeah, definitely disturbing. Yeah.
Did you have any particularly memorably bizarre experiences while you were speaking to some of the survivors? Anything they told you that really stuck with you?
Gosh, really difficult to sort of pinpoint one thing. I think it was just sort of, what was strange was that even just being there was a feeling or an atmosphere which was quite strong and quite pervasive. So I think even if I'd spoken to no one, just going and being around the buildings and knowing what each of the different functions of the rooms were and whatever else was a pretty intense experience.
And obviously, as you say, Lena's just so courageous in the film. She's so strong. Did any women in particular inspire you while you were shooting?
God, that's a great question. I think Lena's very relatable. She's a very sort of she's an air hostess. She's a very sort of everyday woman. And so I would just say the women that I've met personally in my life, who I've seen that kind of resolve and that kind of strength and that kind of thinking which allows them to do extraordinary things, which is just, a kind of belief in themselves and a belief in what they're doing.
Obviously, you're a figurehead of feminism today and your role in the UN. So how does that responsibility affect how you choose your film roles? Obviously, it's a different, perhaps
that's
different
interesting.
dimension
I
to some
guess,
other.
yeah, it is a different dimension. I think being a child star, as they call it, or having worked as a minor, you do sort of have to be aware of the kind of trajectory, and also kind of aware that people are viewing your performances through a very different lens. I saw a really interesting article yesterday that, people had seen the trailer and they're like, oh, Emma Watson, scandalous, really trying to push the envelope and step away from Hermione and Harry Potter and whatever else. And it's like, I'm just kissing someone, and it's kind of this huge deal. And it's, so, you're aware of that, but you also, I don't like to try and let all of that noise affect my choices and my decisions, because ultimately, if you live like that, then I think it would close me off to a lot of opportunities and experiences, and I'd never do anything if I
decisions to make. So.
Yeah.
And there's some very disturbing scenes in Colonia. Very tense, a lot of and some particularly strike me were the violence against women, the humiliation scenes. I mean, the film is set in the 70s, but like you say, it's not that long ago, and similar treatment does still go on around the world. So what are your thoughts on where we are today in terms of stamping out violence against women?
Gosh, unfortunately, it's still pretty chronic, really. I think 1 in 4 women will experience a form of violence in their lifetimes. So I think it's probably not talked about enough how actually pervasive it is. I think we've got a long way to go. I think it's also become socially acceptable, or just the norm, that women should feel afraid walking around alone, whether that particularly at night or or whenever. And I think it's sad that we live in a society where women don't feel safe to walk around on their own.
Okay. And final question, just because I couldn't wait to ask you this.
Yeah.
What's it like fulfilling every girl's fantasy and playing Belle?
Oh, great question. Definitely.
Sum it up in just 3 words if you want. You've got to be
I've got whiplash from the last question to this. Amazing. I mean, it's just every girl's dream, really. I loved her as a child. I loved all the music. I knew all the lyrics, and I loved that she was just this feisty heroine who, whose whole life wasn't about marrying the most handsome guy in the village or whatever else. Her life was that she wanted to read, and she wanted to go on adventures, and she wanted to be her own woman and her own person. And I think she's probably one of my first tastes of feminism. So pretty cool to be playing her now.